In today's Haftarah, in the words of the prophet Micah, God reminds the people Israel, I brought you up from the land of Egypt, and I redeemed you from the house of bondage, and I set before you Moshe, Aharon, and Miriam. So often, we sing songs about Miriam. So many, I would guess a few of us in this room have her Hebrew name. And we look to her as a paragon of Jewish women's leadership, but we do not talk enough about her life as the full spectrum of experience that it is. As Parashat Chukat acknowledges the death of Miriam, this morning we will learn about Miriam and find the inspiration to bind her memory up in the bond of our lives. And next time the death of Aharon comes up in our triennial cycle, we'll do the same with Aharon too. His life is just as fascinating. The first time we hear about Miriam, she is an unnamed yet crucial actor in the fate of the Israelite people. In the second chapter of Exodus, as Moshe's mother sets him in a basket upon the Nile, his sister watches from afar as Pharaoh's daughter discovers the baby. Once Pharaoh's daughter takes Moshe as her own, the sister approaches her and suggests that a Hebrew nurse care for her baby, thus allowing Moshe's mother to share in her son's upbringing. Moshe knows that she is, in fact, her brother's keeper, and she also finds a way of fulfilling that mitzvah of honoring her mother, alongside care for her brother. As early as Miriam appears in Moshe's biblical story, Midrash suggests that Miriam's active involvement begins much earlier. She is identified as one of the midwives who slyly refuses Pharaoh's request to kill the Hebrew baby boys at the birth stool. And then when Pharaoh commands that those Hebrew baby boys be thrown into the Nile, the Midrash teaches that the Hebrew men leave their wives as they believe that their people's future is hopeless. Miriam is the one who is taught to remind her father, the leader of that Hebrew movement for divorce, that the women still have a chance for survival, even if the men don't, and that even though life in this world may be threatened, the Hebrews may still hold out hope for life in the world to come. Thanks to Miriam's words of encouragement, the husbands remarry their wives, and the Midrash says the wives put together a whole ploy to seduce their husbands to make sure that that happens. And the first verse of Exodus kicks off Moshe's story. And there was a man of the house of Levi who took for a wife a daughter of Levi. With her advisory wisdom and optimism, Miriam ensures not only the life of her sacred brother, but also the lives of all future Israelite men and women. Time and time again, she finds creative solutions to problems that might seem otherwise unsolvable. She knows never to accept defeat or threat as an ending to her story, or to the story of the people Israel. I want to add to a midrash that I just found yesterday, that Miriam, the rabbis ask, why do we call Miriam the prophetess? What makes her a prophetess? She is the one who tells her father, in another word of encouragement about the future, that he is going to have a son who will change the future of the Israelite people. Yet another word of encouragement for him to keep going, to keep together with Miriam's mother. Now later, as the Israelites escape from Egypt, walking through the Sea of Reeds on dry land, maybe the most famous story about Miriam, Miriam HaNevi'ah, the prophetess, leads the Israelite women in song and dance. In this time of great trepidation, where the Israelites had just been pursued by their former masters, Miriam embraces a moment for celebration and uses it as fuel to bring her people forward, to renew their energy for whatever lies ahead. In our Parsha, as Miriam's death is followed immediately by the Israelites' thirst for water, the Midrash explains that Miriam had brought a well with her throughout the desert, ensuring that the Israelites are sustained. And if you were following along in your Eitz Chaim, there was a beautiful commentary too, that because Miriam was so watchful of her brother along the Nile, along that place of water, she was rewarded with being able to carry this well with her throughout the desert. Even in the desert, again, Miriam is able to find a way for her community not only to survive, but to move forward, to thrive. At the time of Miriam's death, then, the Talmud explains that she is brushed with the same divine kiss Moshe will receive at his death. In the same Talmudic section in Masechet Moed Katan, the rabbis ask why Miriam's death comes directly after the instructions about the red heifer, the Parah Adumah. Just as the red heifer atones for the incident of the golden calf, the rabbis teach, the Jewish people's communal misdeed, the death of a truly righteous person, any truly righteous person like Miriam, also atones for each individual in the community's misdeeds. We learn from the lives of the righteous how to better act, speak, and work in the land of the living. Of course, our prophetess is far from perfect. Her gossip regarding Moshe's Cushite wife leaves her struck with scaly sara'at, and yet, despite, or maybe perhaps because of her human imperfections, Miriam leaves us her legacy of hope, of standing up to authority, and of a zest for life. With her watchful eye and her calculated words along the edge of the Nile, she reminds us of our responsibility for family, even when it requires risking a little or a lot. And as Miriam leads the Israelite women in song and dance at the Sea of Reeds, she confirms that leadership in Jewish worship is not just for men, but truly for us all. More broadly, Miriam inspires positive, hopeful leadership. In each of her roles, including her creation of wells in the desert, she affirms for the people Israel that life is both possible and extraordinary, even at the scariest of times. As a human being, when she engages in gossip, she shows us that even the strongest, most righteous leaders have their faults and experience the consequences. Even after that moment of tzara'at, after suffering the consequences, Miriam experiences the support of a community who knows her strengths and who cares deeply for her. After everything she's done for the community, they wait for her the full 7 days she is isolated with her tzara'at before they move on to the next camp. Miriam reminds us to look for life where there seems to be none, to search for what's worth celebrating at every moment, and to deepen our connection with a community who knows that as wonderful as we are, we all need patience and support at one time or another. Today's Haftarah ends with a plea from the prophet Micah. You've been told, humankind, what is good and what God requires of you, only to do justice, to love goodness, and to walk modestly with your God. In her commentary on the Haftarah, Rabbi Jane Kanarik brings in Miriam as Micah's exemplar. Rabbi Kanarik teaches she has done justice by demanding that her parents challenge Pharaoh's decree and by rebuking her brother privately to Aaron. She has loved goodness by bringing comfort to all the children she brought into the world as a midwife, those in Egypt and those in the desert, and by telling the women to bring musical instruments with them on the arduous desert journey, and by leading them in song. She has walked humbly by hiding in the bulrushes to watch her brother and by accepting her punishment, yet continuing as their people's leader. Today, as we reflect on Miriam's life, may we each grasp onto the lessons and the attributes that speak the most to us today. Whether risking it all for family, finding every excuse to celebrate, or being creative in finding ways forward, may our memory of Miriam Hanaviah, Miriam the prophetess, guide our intentions for the week ahead. Shabbat Shalom.